action cams? Outdated. If you actually want to capture everything, you need a 360 camera. The DJI Osmo 360, Insta360 X5, and the GoPro Max 2 are some of the best 360 cameras out there right now. And we've got all three in our hands. We're gonna take these things for a full 360-degree spin to figure out which one is the all-around champion. Hey, I'm Olive, your host here at Versus.com. DJI did send us the Osmo 360 for this review, but as always, our opinions are 100% honest, even if DJI might not totally agree with all of our findings. Let's dive right into the video quality because that's why you're all here, right? So a quick look at the camera specs. The DJI comes rocking dual square 1/1.1 inch sensors and an f1.9 aperture. The Insta360 has 1/1.28 inch sensors and an f2 aperture. Finally, the GoPro sports a 1/2.3 inch sensor with an f1.8 aperture. For maximum video resolutions, the DJI totally takes the cake. Even though all of them can film in 8K, the DJI can shoot it up to 50 frames per second, while the Insta360 and the GoPro only go up to 30 FPS. This is the quality you can expect from all three cams. What immediately pops out for us is that the DJI is the only one that can really handle the super bright highlights, but without sacrificing detail in the shadows. The Insta360 is similar in quality, but the dynamic range is noticeably more limited. Plus, it has a slightly magenta tint. The GoPro is definitely the warmest of the three, though this warm tone is way over the top as the DJI represents colors more precisely. Once we lower the FPS on the DJI to 30 frames per second, you can see the detail actually goes up a bit, making it sharper than the other two, even though they're all set to medium sharpness. One small detail, however, is that the sky looks a little too oversaturated. On the Insta360, you can see the camera software is kind of applying a beauty filter to my face. It also has the lowest detail levels of the bunch. The GoPro, on the other hand, has good detail, but the scene is a little dark. We do prefer the sky tone though. All three cameras also support log video. This format looks totally flat when you play it, but it grabs a ton of data, giving you a ton of flexibility to play with your footage in post. Now, this is how your videos will look with each brand's official LUTs. In the case of the DJI and Insta360, you can apply the LUT with a single click on the desktop software, while for the GoPro, you'll have to download it from their support page. As you can see, the DJI looks the most balanced, while the Insta360 is extremely blurry, and the GoPro looks dark. All three of these cameras also let you film in single lens mode in case you just want to use them like a simple action cam. The DJI can shoot up to 5K at 60 FPS, while the Insta360 and GoPro only go up to 4K at 30 FPS. From all three, it totally goes without saying that the DJI has the absolute most detail, while also having the highest FPS. Some might say it's over-sharpened, but that's up to you. The Insta360 lacks the most detail as everything looks way too smoothed out. We also think its colors look a bit saturated, but again, that's down to your personal preference. The GoPro is kind of the middle ground between the two with correct detail, but more toned down colors. Alright, still in single lens mode, you can totally see that all three cameras do a fantastic job at stabilization. The footage looks super solid and locked down, and there's no weird camera shake going on in any of them. So no major issues to report. But what happens when the sun goes down and it's full-on Batman time out there? In the default video mode, the quality on the DJI is a bit lower than the daytime, but that's to be expected. However, it manages to capture most of the scene with accurate colors compared to the Insta360 X5 and the GoPro Max 2. The last one looks just pitch black. Both the DJI and the Insta360 actually offer dedicated low light modes, super night and pure video mode. The GoPro just completely lacks any low light mode at all. As you can see, these modes definitely make a difference. You can see even more of the scene than before. However, video detail looks a little too smooth on the DJI, and on the flip side, it's extremely over-sharpened on the Insta360. Still, both are way better than just a bunch of black shades like you've got on the GoPro. Next up, let's talk about audio quality and most importantly, how effective the noise reduction is. So now let's test out the audio on all of these action cameras and see how I sound when the audio is set to just default right out of the box. We'll start off with the Insta360 over here. What do you guys think? How do I sound? Moving on to DJI. Does my voice sound clearer than Insta? What do we think? And finally, we have the GoPro over here. Is it any better than the other two cams? What do we think? Definitely comment down below your thoughts. But now let's hop onto a bike and test out the wind reduction. Right, so here we are with the noise reduction, wind reduction turned on. So here's how I sound on the Insta360. Is it doing a good job? What do you guys think? Next we move on to DJI. Does it sound any better than Insta360? What do we think, you guys? And finally, we've got the GoPro. Got a lot of wind here, some cars going on. How is it handling that? As always, let's talk about it. So in the default modes, the Insta360 definitely blocks the most background noise. The DJI lets a bit more noise sneak in, and the GoPro basically just lets all the noise in. With the wind noise reduction turned on, the Insta360 sounds clear, but the DJI highlights my voice much better, though sometimes it sounds a tiny bit distorted. The GoPro is also good, but the volume is definitely lower overall. Naturally, you can also hook up external microphones to all three of these cameras to capture even clearer audio. In the case of the DJI, you can directly pair DJI's own mics so you get even clearer audio in super windy conditions. If you want to check out how good their latest DJI Mic 3 is, you're gonna have to check this video out right here. And since you're listening so closely, we've just gotta say that we have noticed some of you are watching these videos and still haven't even subscribed. So if you are loving these kinds of tests that we do here, please think about hitting that subscribe button. Oh, and if any of these cameras have sparked your interest, remember that we always have direct links waiting for you down in the description below. All right, let's keep this party going with some cool video modes you can find built right into these cameras. First up, we've got slow motion. Just keep in mind that you'll have to manually slow down your footage in post-production. For maximum resolution in this mode, the DJI is still capable of filming at 8K. The Insta360 drops down to 5.7K, while the GoPro has the lowest resolution at 5.6K. So when you slow your video down by half speed, you're gonna get 25 FPS on the DJI and 30 FPS on the Insta360 and GoPro. But as before, the detail levels are way higher on the DJI, with the GoPro following close behind. For the fastest FPS these can shoot, you get 100 FPS on the DJI and the GoPro, and an even faster 120 FPS on the Insta360, all of them at 4K resolution. When you slow those down 4 times, you get 25 FPS on the DJI and GoPro and 30 on the Insta360. But even though the Insta360's footage is slightly slower, the video detail is miles better on the DJI. Alright, time-lapse is definitely a must-have feature for these cameras. All you gotta do is keep the camera still and hit record. Honestly, the HDR effect on the DJI and Insta360 is a little too aggressive because the shadows get extremely lifted. Only the GoPro looks more natural here, with deeper shadows and a much warmer tone. In each of these camera apps, you can add synthetic blur for an even more dynamic effect. But the final result on both the DJI and the Insta360 looks a little too fake. On the flip side, the effect is barely visible in the GoPro. In this other shot, once again, the DJI and Insta360 are heavily lifting those shadows, though this time the Insta360 is a little less aggressive about it. The GoPro once again looks the most natural, but it could really use a little more saturation. In this next one, the DJI and Insta360 both capture a much wider dynamic range since they capture most of the buildings and the sunset light correctly. The Insta360 is a bit darker, but it also has more realistic colors. Once we apply motion blur, just like before, the DJI and Insta360 do a really good job of making the videos look more dynamic. The GoPro, on the other hand, adds the effect to basically everything, making the whole video look completely blurry. Alright, if you've ever watched The Matrix and you want to channel your inner Neo, DJI offers Vortex mode. All you gotta do is mount the camera to the Vortex selfie stick and take it for a spin. Insta360 also has this mode, but they call it bullet time. It basically works the same it does on the DJI, though to be fair, the tracking on me is a little more stable. GoPro completely lacks a mode like this, and while you can try to replicate it by filming in high FPS and then tracking yourself in the mobile app, the results are definitely less than ideal. Now, a lot of people don't really take photos with these cameras, but if you're into it, the DJI can grab massive 100 120 megapixel shots, the Insta360 hits 72 megapixels, and the GoPro takes 29 megapixels. Just like with the videos, the Insta360 lacks the most detail, while on the flip side, the GoPro is a little over-sharpened. The DJI is sitting right there in the middle. It's the same story for this next shot. This time though, we actually prefer how the shadows are darker on the GoPro, but the sunset is totally blown out, unlike on the DJI. Of course, you also get a ton of photo and video settings you can tweak, so let's zoom in and check out a few of those real fast. For example, when you're using single lens mode on all three cameras, you've got multiple fields of view to choose from. This basically changes how your videos are gonna look. You can choose to shoot something with a more natural feel, or you can go for that full-blown action cam vibe with a heavy fisheye effect. You can also switch between different aspect ratios to find whatever fits your content the best. Naturally, you get the classic 16:9 on all three of these cameras, which is totally expected. But on the Insta360 and the GoPro, you can also select 9:16, which is the same format but vertical. On the DJI, you'll have to manually rotate the camera to get that look. Finally, you get the 4:3 ratio on the DJI and the GoPro. However, the Insta360 is missing this aspect ratio altogether. So in the end, you get 3 different options on the GoPro and just 2 on the other 2 cams. We've been briefly mentioning the companion apps and desktop programs, so let's quickly go over those now. Just a heads up that you absolutely need to download each camera's official app to register and activate the camera, otherwise you will not be able to film a single second. Honestly, all 3 apps are pretty similar. It's mostly just UI changes that make them look different. All 3 apps give you a wide range of tutorials to guide you if you're a complete beginner when it comes to shooting or editing. You can also manually or automatically reframe your 360-degree videos right here and use a bunch of preset effects to make your footage seriously pop. So while technically you don't need a computer, all 3 brands also have desktop programs, and to be fair, it's just much easier to work on your videos there. From our time with the different software, both the DJI and Insta360 programs turned out to be more user-friendly, as the GoPro software just feels old and chunky. Alright, so we've been over all the cool stuff these cameras can do, but what about the actual camera bodies themselves? As you can see, the GoPro is the most compact of the bunch, while the Insta360 is the biggest one. The DJI sits right in the middle. When it comes to weight, the DJI is the lightest of the bunch at just 183 grams. They all come standard with an integrated 1/4 inch thread mount and a magnetic base. However, the GoPro also has built-in mounting fingers for a thumb screw. For screens, they're all pretty similar in size. It's mostly the aspect ratio that changes things up. If you accidentally scratch or break a lens, the DJI has no replaceable lenses, which means you're gonna have to actually send your entire camera in for service. The Insta360 and the GoPro both let you swap these lenses out yourself. But what about the juice, the storage, and how tough these things are? The DJI and the GoPro roll with almost identical batteries, but the Insta360 comes packing a bigger 2,400 mAh cell. To test battery life, we set all 3 side by side in a room with 21 degrees Celsius and set them all to record at 8K 30 FPS in 360 mode. The GoPro was the first to say bye-bye because it overheated and shut down at the 30-minute mark, still with 51% of battery left. Next up was the DJI, which recorded for 1 hour and 17 minutes before it also turned off due to overheating. This one though was down to only 3% of battery. Finally, the Insta360 made it through the entire recording, only turning off because the battery ran out completely at 1 hour and 33 minutes. On the other hand, when it comes to charging, only the DJI and Insta360 support fast charging standards, while the GoPro has nada. The DJI, however, has the benefit of being compatible with DJI's action cam batteries, so you can swap them around as needed if you already have a DJI camera. When it comes to storage, the DJI is a winner here because it actually comes with 128 gigabytes of built-in storage, which is a lifesaver if you forget your micro SD card. Still, all 3 let you expand the storage up to 1 terabyte with a removable card. For durability, the DJI has an IP68 rating, meaning it's dust tight and can swim in up to 10 meters of water. The Insta360 is rated IPX8, so it doesn't really have dust protection protection, but it can dive deeper down to 15 meters. The GoPro doesn't have an official IP rating, but it can still handle being dunked in up to 5 meters of water. Naturally, all three companies offer cases that will heavily increase that water and dust protection. So we finally hit that point that's gonna put everything into perspective: the price. The DJI and the Insta360 actually retail for the exact same $549. The GoPro is still the cheapest though, coming in at $499. That's a $50 difference you could use to buy like 40 boxes of mac and cheese. Just saying. So altogether, the DJI team really delivered a compelling option in the 360-degree camera segment, which isn't a total shocker given their already solid reputation with action cameras. The DJI Osmo 360 offers great hardware and the best video quality out of these three cams. Plus, it also has the handy benefit of offering internal storage. On the negative side, not having interchangeable lenses is definitely a concern since both the Insta360 and the GoPro do offer that. Honestly, the Insta360 is super similar to DJI's offering and is a true alternative, especially since they both cost the same. However, its video quality could use some work as it sometimes looks way too blurry. Lastly, it's true that the GoPro is the cheapest, but the fact that it's missing a dedicated night mode, the user interface is a real pain to use, and it completely lacks fast charging, means we can't really recommend it. So before you go scrolling on your phone while you watch TV, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up and hit subscribe as we're always testing new devices to help you make the best choice. We'll see you in our next video, and until then, take care.